Welcome back, everybody, for another deep dive with us. Today we are going to be tackling a question that I think a lot of people have probably thought about at one point or another, and that is, who values romantic relationships,
Mhm.
more men or women?
Mm.
We have got some super interesting research from Cambridge University Press to unpack today, and along with that, we also have a really lively discussion
Mhm.
that was sparked on Reddit as a result of that study. So
Yeah,
get ready to maybe have some of your assumptions turned upside down because I think there's some surprises here.
absolutely. I think, it's so fascinating to see how this research really challenges the common stereotype that women are the ones who are, obsessed with romance or whatever.
Right.
The study suggests that men might actually get more out of romantic relationships and
Right.
actually experience greater distress when those relationships end.
Whoa. Okay. Hold on. That's a pretty bold statement.
It is.
So what's leading researchers to that conclusion? Like, what's the basis?
Yeah, so one of the key factors that they point to is this difference in how men and women tend to build their social support networks.
Okay.
And if you think about it, if your romantic partner is your primary source of emotional intimacy and your relationship ends, that's a massive loss.
Right. Yeah. It's like your whole world.
Exactly.
And that seems to resonate with what people were saying on Reddit, too.
Yeah.
You see a lot of comments from men kind of echoing that sentiment.
Yeah.
My partner is my confidant, my best friend, my everything.
Right.
And then on the other hand, you see a lot of women talking about having a broader network of, friends and family to lean on
Yeah.
for emotional support.
I think this difference in social support systems might stem in part from societal expectations
Okay.
and how men are often raised.
Mm.
There's this pressure on men to be strong and stoic, to kind of avoid appearing vulnerable
Right.
outside of a romantic relationship, so they might not feel as comfortable confiding in friends or family about their problems.
That makes sense. And I think that's a really good point. I hadn't even thought about it that way, but it's like they're almost channeling all their emotional energy into that one relationship
Yeah,
because that's the one place where they feel like they can actually, express those feelings.
exactly. And you can see how that could make men more invested in maintaining their romantic relationships.
Sure.
They have more to lose, emotionally speaking, if the relationship falls apart.
Right. And there's even a comment on Reddit from this guy, and he describes this feeling of being totally lost
Oh, wow.
after a breakup because his entire support system was gone.
Yeah.
His partner had been his sole source of support. So when that ended, he just felt completely unprepared to navigate single life.
That's heartbreaking, and I think it really underscores how crucial it is to have diverse support networks.
Yeah,
Like, if your emotional well-being hinges solely on one person, that puts immense pressure on that relationship and leaves you incredibly vulnerable if things go south.
totally. But hold on, not everybody on Reddit is buying into this whole men value relationships more idea.
Okay.
So people are pushing back and saying, women are just better at bouncing back from breakups because it's easier for them to find new partners.
Right.
Is there any truth to that?
Yeah, that's a common perception.
Yeah.
But the data from the Reddit discussion itself actually suggests that it's not the whole story.
Okay.
A lot of users, both men and women, are pushing back on this idea that hookup culture is as prevalent as it's often portrayed.
Interesting.
In fact, several women actually mention finding casual encounters emotionally unfulfilling.
Huh. It's almost like there's this expectation that men are always looking for the hookup and women are the ones who want the relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But then when you read what people are actually saying, it's like both men and women want that connection and intimacy.
The study's findings don't suggest that women don't care about relationships.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that societal pressures can lead men to place a higher value on their romantic partnerships, often at the expense of other relationships that could provide emotional support.
So it's not necessarily that men inherently value it more,
Right.
but it's how society kind of shapes
Yeah,
how they experience
absolutely.
and express that value
And where they can find that value and how they can express it.
and the limited options
Exactly.
that they feel like they have.
Yeah.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's something to think about.
It is.
We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back to continue this deep dive.
And this raises some really important questions about how we can create a culture that encourages healthier emotional expression and support for everyone, regardless of gender.
Yeah, for sure, because at the end of the day, everybody benefits from having, that really strong support system,
Absolutely.
whether it includes, a romantic partner, friends, family,
Right.
all of the above.
Exactly.
Okay, so another interesting finding from the study is that men are statistically less likely to initiate breakups.
Which, again, makes sense when you consider the potential reasons we've been discussing.
Right.
If men are often placing more emotional weight on their romantic relationships and they have fewer alternative sources of support, it stands to reason that they would be more hesitant to end things even if the relationship isn't working.
And it's almost like they feel like they have more to lose.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that women are never the ones to, initiate a breakup.
Of course not.
The Reddit thread is full of stories from women who said, you know what, this isn't working for me anymore.
Absolutely. It's not about creating this narrative where men are always the victims or
Yeah.
women hold all the power.
Right.
It's more about recognizing that these societal pressures can create these underlying dynamics
Yeah.
that might influence relationship behaviors.
And speaking of those societal pressures, both the study and the Reddit discussion highlighted this idea that men are often judged harshly for expressing vulnerability outside of romantic relationships.
Oh, for sure.
It's like they're damned if they do, damned if they don't.
Totally. There's this expectation that men should be strong and independent, but then they're also expected to rely solely on their partner for emotional support.
Right.
It's a real double bind.
It is. And one Reddit user even described it as having to put on this performance of masculinity,
Oh, wow.
which can be so isolating and exhausting.
It makes sense.
So no wonder some men struggle to build those close, supportive friendships
Right.
that could offer that alternative source of emotional intimacy.
Exactly. If you're constantly told that showing vulnerability is a sign of weakness, you're less likely to open up to friends or seek support outside of a romantic relationship.
And what's interesting is a woman on Reddit actually mentioned that she's noticed this pattern in her own life.
Okay.
She said her male friends often hesitate to open up about their feelings, even when they're going through really tough times.
That just perpetuates this cycle where men feel like they can only be their true selves with a romantic partner. And then that further reinforces the idea that the relationship itself holds even more value.
It's like that saying, men are afraid to be vulnerable and women are afraid to be powerful.
Right?
It's like both genders are grappling with
These restrictive expectations
Yeah.
that can limit their ability to form really fulfilling connections.
And that's why I think these conversations are so important.
Me too.
We need to challenge these outdated norms.
Absolutely.
Create space for men to express their emotions without feeling shame. Encourage them to build those strong support networks outside of their romantic relationship.
Exactly.
And then for women, it's about recognizing the unique challenges
Yeah.
that men face and supporting them on that journey toward healthier emotional expression.
Of course, this isn't to say that women don't face their own set of pressures and expectations
absolutely not.
when it comes to relationships.
Yeah, sure.
We're not trying to create this competition of who has it worse.
Right. It's not about pitting one gender against the other.
Yeah.
It's about fostering understanding and empathy on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
recognizing that everyone, regardless of gender, deserves to feel loved and supported.
Absolutely. And that healthy relationships, whether romantic or platonic, require open communication and vulnerability from all parties involved.
Okay, so speaking of vulnerability, let's go back to that study's finding that men tend to suffer more after a breakup.
Okay.
That sparked a lot of debate on Reddit. Some people were arguing that heartbreak is subjective and that women experience it just as intensely.
That's a fair point, and I think it's true that everyone experiences heartbreak differently.
Right.
But the study's authors suggest that this difference in post-breakup distress could be linked back to those social support networks we were talking about.
Oh, okay. So if men are primarily relying on their partner
Yeah.
for emotional support, losing that relationship can just be completely devastating.
Absolutely.
Like their whole world is falling apart.
Right. While women, with their broader networks of friends and family, might have more sources of comfort and distraction to help them through a difficult breakup.
They might have more outlets for processing those emotions
Exactly.
and getting the support that they need.
For sure.
And that's where that personal anecdote from the Reddit thread really hits home.
Right.
That guy who felt lost and unprepared for single life after his breakup.
Yeah.
It just illustrates how crucial it is to have multiple forms of support.
Absolutely. He had invested so much of himself in that one relationship that he neglected to cultivate other sources of support.
It's a reminder that building strong connections outside of a romantic relationship isn't just beneficial.
Right.
It's essential
It is.
for everyone's emotional well-being.
I agree.
Whether you're male, female, non-binary,
Yeah.
having those diverse support networks can make all the difference in navigating the ups and downs of life.
We need to move away from this idea that romantic love is the only source of true fulfillment and encourage people to seek connection and support from a variety of sources.
For sure.
Friends, family, mentors, community groups, they can all contribute to a sense of belonging and well-being.
Because at the end of the day, we all crave connection.
We do.
And there's no one-size-fits-all approach to finding it. It's about recognizing that a fulfilling life often involves a rich tapestry of relationships,
Yeah.
each offering its unique form of support and enrichment.
Beautiful.
So after this deep dive and all this discussion, have we actually answered the question? Do men really value romantic relationships more than women?
I think it's complex. We can't really boil it down to like a simple yes or no.
Right.
Both men and women yearn for love and connection.
Of course.
But as we've been talking about, societal pressures often lead men to prioritize those romantic partnerships,
Yeah.
sometimes at the expense of nurturing other meaningful relationships in their lives.
It's almost like we're setting men up to experience, potentially even greater heartbreak by teaching them that their romantic partner should be their only source of fulfillment.
Exactly. And I think that highlights the importance of, challenging these outdated norms.
Yeah.
We need to create a culture where men feel comfortable expressing emotions openly
For sure.
and seeking support from various sources, not just their partner.
Absolutely.
Well-
Encourage them to build those strong platonic friendships that can provide, that sense of belonging and understanding outside of romantic relationships. And for women, it's about recognizing the unique pressures that men face and supporting them on their path toward a healthier emotional expression.
Yes, definitely.
Like, let's break free from these limiting gender stereotypes
Right. Yeah.
that dictate, how men and women should experience and express love.
Because at the end of the day, healthy relationships, whether they're romantic or platonic,
Right.
are built on, mutual respect, open communication, and a willingness to be vulnerable with each other.
It's exciting to think that by challenging these norms, we can create a world where everyone feels empowered to seek out and cultivate those relationships that really bring them joy and fulfillment, regardless of gender.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day, think about your own experiences. How might those societal expectations be shaping your perceptions of love and romance
Right.
and the importance of different types of relationships in your life?
It's a great question for everybody to consider.
And of course, we always love hearing from you guys. So head over to our social media pages and share your thoughts on this episode.
Yes, please do.
Have you noticed these gender differences in your own relationships?
Yeah.
What are some things that we can do to create, a more supportive and emotionally healthy environment for everyone?
That's what we're all about.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the world of romantic relationships and gender dynamics.
It's been a pleasure.
And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button and give us a like. You can find Voices of the Soul on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to check out more thought-provoking content from Shauna Pelage on YouTube.
Definitely.
Until next time, keep those conversations flowing and those hearts open.